All right, we have done it. We have finished To Kill a Mockingbird. I truly hope that you guys liked it. A couple people have already messaged me that they're really enjoying it. I know it's not everybody's all-time favorite book, but I don't know if I've ever taught someone who can honestly say, like, I hated that book. Maybe one of you is the first, but I feel like most people find something about it that they like. So we're on the very last 2 chapters. So this is my last review video, chapter 30 and 31, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about your test. So there will not be a 30 and 31 quiz. We're just gonna go straight into the test. So I'll talk about that at the very end. Okay, so chapter 30. We know that, let's recap. My first question is, from a legal standpoint, how does Atticus want to handle this incident? So what we know is that Bob Ewell has attacked the children, probably with an intention to kill. We know he was holding a knife. We know that Scout, because of her awkward costume, kind of was rolled away. And that Jim, we don't really know what happened with Jim, but we know that he was bad. He was injured. Bad bump on the head, sort of in a state of shock, broken arm. And then we know that Bob Ewell is dead, and he died actually from a knife wound. So that's what we know. We also know that the person who intervened and carried Jim home to safety was Boo Radley. That's what we know. Okay, so Atticus is a lawyer. He immediately, even though these are his kids and he's, first he's a dad, secondly, he's a lawyer, and he immediately goes into like lawyer mode. And he's like, all right, well, let's file a report. I don't want there to be any secrets. Let's just like tell the whole town what happened. Jim, it will be self-defense. So Atticus is assuming that what happened was Bob Ewell attacked them. Him and Jim are kind of wrestling. Somehow Jim gets the knife, stabs him, and that's how Bob Ewell dies. So, from Atticus's view, the person who killed Bob Ewell is Jim. And he's like, I don't want there to be secrets. I don't want him to have this stigma attached to him for the rest of his life. Let's tell people what happened. And, it's self-defense. And so that's Atticus's standpoint. He wants to essentially treat this like a self-defense case. And self-defense is very tricky, but in this case, no jury would convict Jim of murder. It would be pretty clear cut. Not only had this man already made threats against the family, a grown man attacking a young child, no jury is going to convict Jim to jail. So Atticus is like, let's go to trial. Let's get this taken care of, and then Jim can live a normal life. Hecate, this is question 2. Hecate is like, no. Bob fell on his knife and stabbed himself. And he keeps saying that. And he's saying it like, Bob fell on his knife and, winking and stabbed himself. And Atticus is like, listen, I know you're trying to protect my son. I appreciate it, but I don't want secrets. Like, secrets don't end well. I want to take care of this. And Hecate is adamant, and they both kind of start raising their voice at each other. And Hecate is like, Atticus, I'm sorry to yell at you, but he fell on his knife and he stabbed himself, and case closed, and I'm the sheriff and I get to make the final call. Now, I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but the chances, if I'm holding a knife with the intention to attack, the chances that all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I slip and fall and I stab myself, pretty low. It's clear that he's sort of covering for someone. So my question 3 is, as the men argue on how to handle the incident, Hecate says, God, bleep, he has some cuss words, I'm not thinking of Jim. Heck is protecting someone. Who is it and why? I wish I could have some feedback, but obviously I can't. I'm filming this ahead of time, so I just have to tell you. So Atticus thinks that it was Jim. Hecate does not. Hecate is insinuating that the person who killed that killed Bob was actually Boo Radley. Hecate believes that Boo somehow saw or heard the commotion, ran out to help the children, probably grabbed the knife, and stabbed Bob Ewell. Now, I said a second ago, self-defense gets really complicated. If Jim would have done it, no jury was going to convict him. But Boo, it gets a little bit more complicated with Boo. Boo wasn't initially attacked. He jumped in. And so Hecate is arguing, and he's basically like, Atticus, catch my drift, winking at him, get my hints. It wasn't Jim, it was somebody else, and we need to protect that person, so we are going to say that Bob Ewell fell on his knife and stabbed himself, that he intended to harm the children and he tripped and killed himself. He's protecting Boo, and so my question is, why? Here is, you have a man who's making threats against a family, attacking children, and then another man who has really never done anything but be gossiped about. If people find out this was Boo, it's just going to fuel the fire of all the rumors spread about him. Remember, people are like, he stabbed his father and he's been locked in the basement and he eats raccoons at night. This is just going to fuel that fire. And for a while now, we as the reader have kind of been wondering, is he really that bad? Because the only interaction we've been seeing is he was leaving those little trinkets for the children and he put the blanket over Scout's shoulder. So from our standpoint, it hasn't really seemed like he's done anything that bad. And so Hecate is protecting this person who has this horrible reputation. And this is just going to destroy him. If word gets out that now he's out killing people, this will destroy him. And let's think about that. Wouldn't we all agree that what Boo did saved the children's lives? Think about if he wouldn't have intervened, what would have happened to Jim and Scout? Bob Ewell was drunk and had the intention to kill. He was ready to kill. And so Hecate finally kind of gets the final word, because at the end of the day, he's the sheriff. He's the one who writes the report. And he's like, Atticus, I'm putting that Bob Ewell fell on his knife. You and I both know it wasn't Jim. We both know it was Boo. We're not going to drag his name. Bob Ewell fell on his knife, and quite frankly, the world is a better place now that he's not in it. And so they kind of leave it at that. So Atticus finally kind of agrees, okay, fine, we'll do it that way. So at the very end of the chapter, he turns to Boo, and I ask you all, what does he say? And he says, thank you for my children. He is realizing that his children would likely not be here if it were not for Boo. Or if they were here, they'd be in much worse shape than a broken arm. A broken arm is serious, but it's also who hasn't broken their arm? And so it's not like a life or death injury. He's going to be fine. And so he's thanking that he intervened and protected their lives so that things couldn't have been a lot worse. So then we have our last chapter, chapter 31. So here's a fun little fact. I really, really hope you guys watched the movie To Kill a Mockingbird with your family. It's black and white, but it's exceptional. The year it came out, it won the Oscar for Best Movie. But then, when you watch the Oscars, if any of you do, there's always subcategories. There's Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor. So I think this is really funny. The actor who played Boo that year won Best Supporting Actor. Now think about the book. Up till now, he has not actually been in the book. He's been in his house. So imagine you're an actor. This would be the easiest role to prepare for because you're never on film. This was the very first time, and so far all he's done is stand in a corner like a creep. He hasn't said anything. He actually only says one line in the book and in the movie, and he looks at Scout and says, do you want to walk me home? That's the only thing he says. So that's your answer. What does Boo ask? And it's just funny because that actor who said one line won Best Supporting Actor that year. Just sort of funny. But anyways, It says, how does she describe it? She describes it as though, and this is, I don't have the book in front of me, but she says he asks almost like as a little kid who's scared of the dark. So Boo is not this malicious killer, stabbing, eats raccoons man that the town has made him out to be. He's just a really misunderstood man who's probably very, very lonely and is just as scared of the world as the rest of people are. So that's the end of chapter 31. I hope you guys liked the book. That's the book. So I want you guys to think about who the mockingbirds are in this book. If the mockingbirds are innocent people who have been treated unfairly their whole lives, who are they? Tom? Probably Boo Radley. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody else who is symbolic of the mockingbird presence? All right, so let me talk about the test, because again, there's no quiz for chapter 30 and 31. We're gonna just go straight to the test. I don't have it in front of me. I should have. I don't. Sorry. I know it's like I want to say it's under 30 questions. So most of it is just multiple choice questions. A lot of them have been recycled from quizzes. They might not be worded exactly the same, but they are essentially asking the same thing. So if you've been doing well in your reading quizzes, then that's good. It's also all open note. So any study guides you guys can use. You can use your book. That's totally fine. So half of it is these multiple choice, just like what happened questions. And then there's some questions of matching, of like who is who. So there's going to be your obvious your like main characters: Atticus Scout, Jim, Dill, Boo Radley, Bob Ewell. So those guys are on there. But then you're going to have your minor characters: Heck Tate. Remember, he's the town sheriff. Mr. Underwood, he runs the newspaper. Link Dees, he employed Tom Robinson. Who else? You're gonna have some people who have made minor presences. So again, you can use your book, you can use your study guides, any notes you've taken. If you've been watching these videos every time I post and doing the study guide, you will do fine. It will be the easiest test you've ever taken. So I will post that tomorrow, and then we will be done with To Kill a Mockingbird. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. All right, thanks for watching.